My name is Russ Major. I'm the Chief of Police for the Delray Beach Police Department. Today I'm here to update you on the outcome of a homicide investigation that began on July 21st, 2023. I would like to first start by recognizing and thanking the community for the assistance in providing vital information that was greatly assisting us and beneficial to the outcome of this investigation. To everyone who followed this case, you could appreciate the sheer volume of work and countless hours that were necessary to bring resolution and closure to a case of this magnitude. The men and women of the Delray Beach Police Department worked around the clock since July 21st. It makes me proud to be the chief of this organization and to lead this organization. And I would like to personally thank all those that were involved. A special thanks and recognition must be extended to the crime scene investigators and the detectives that were assigned this case. A week ago, we held a press conference asking the public for any assistance to help identify a subject in this case. Today, I can tell you the victim has since been identified, as well as the individual who committed this heinous crime. Our victim has been identified as Miss Ideal Barbosa Fontes, as well as the defendant, Mr. William Lowe, who has been arrested for first-degree murder. Many of you last week asked the question, how could we ever solve this case? Well, it's the dedication and hard work of the men and women of the Delray Beach Police Department that were committed to serving our community. Although we can never fully repair what has transpired, it is our hope that our efforts can somehow bring peace to the victim and her family. I'm now going to hand the mic over to Detective Mike Liberta, who will explain in more detail what transpired and address questions accordingly. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Detective Michael Liberta. I'm the lead detective on this case. Before I get into the details of this case, I would like to acknowledge that the outcome of this case would not have been possible without my amazing team of detectives and investigators, to include Detective Vickery, Detective Lunsford, Detective Casares, Detective Kinney, Sergeant Kelly, Lieutenant Guerrero, Crime Scene Supervisor Ackerman, Crime Scene Investigator Del Valle, and Crime Scene Investigator Corazzini. In addition to all the other units that assisted in this investigation, these individuals put in countless hours to identify our victim and give her a voice when she wasn't able to speak for herself. I would also like to thank the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and DNA International for their assistance in this case. As you all know, on July 21st, 2023, the Delray Beach Police Department received a call from a subject stating they found a suitcase in the Intracoastal Waterway which contained human remains. On this same date, 2 other suitcases were located in the Intracoastal Waterway of Delray Beach. Detectives worked through the evening and into the early morning hours. On July 22nd, a multi-agency marine operation was conducted in search for additional bags. Detectives located 2 additional bags in the Intracoastal Waterway within the city limits of Delray Beach. Over the next several days, detectives conducted neighborhood canvasses and developed multiple witnesses that were able to supply information in reference to a vehicle and a subject that was seen in the area multiple times prior to the suitcases being located. Video surveillance was collected from multiple sources, and detectives were able to confirm the statements made by these witnesses. A vehicle tag was obtained, which led us to a subject that lived in the immediate vicinity of the area where the suitcases were located. That subject was identified as William Lowe, Jr. Numerous search warrants were authored and executed, and dental records were obtained from this address. Detectives were able to then confirm the identity of our victim as Ideal Barbosa Fontes. Additional evidence was obtained from this residence, which led officers to a storage unit where they located a chainsaw that they believe was used in this crime. Probable cause was developed and an arrest warrant was walked through yesterday afternoon for the defendant, William Lowe, Jr. Mr. Lowe was taken into custody last night by the Delray Beach Police Department and charged with first-degree murder and improper dismemberment of a human body. Mr. Lowe attended first appearance this morning and was not granted a bond. In closing, it is important for myself and the members of the Investigation Division, as well as the Delray Beach Police Department, to express our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of Mrs. Barbosa Fontes. Thank you.
Are you taking questions now?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what he told you, why he would do something as heinous as this?
The defendant obtained counsel and did not give a statement.
Do you all believe there was anyone else involved?
We do not at this time.
Any idea about a motive?
We do not.
Is there any indication that the victim had any health issues or cognitive issues?
We do not have that.
So can you walk us through in a little better detail how you determined this was the guy?
As I mentioned, the witnesses supplied us information of the subject in the area. We collected video surveillance from the area. We obtained the tag. That tag led us to that address. When we did a search of who resides at that address, it was seen that Ms. Barbosa resides at that address. There was also a airline scan code within one of the suitcases that came back to an A. Barbosa, missing a character, so it was O-N-T-E-S. And then we saw that Fontes, F-O-N-T-E-S, lived at that address.
Do you have anyone who actually saw him place the suitcases in the Intracoastal Waterway?
At this time, no.
So you said you don't have an idea about a motive, but we did read in the documents that there was a mention of him giving flowers to a neighbor. Does that play a role at all in this?
At this time, I don't feel that's related.
We've also read in the probable cause affidavit that her sister lived in the same apartment complex. Have you talked to the sister?
The condo upstairs was his sister's condo. She has not been there in 3 years. He had access to that condo as well.
Have you talked to her?
We have not made contact with her.
Did you identify the suspect before you identified the victim, or the victim before you identified the suspect?
The suspect before the victim.
Can you talk to us a little about the state of inside that condo or that apartment? When you guys walked in there, can you talk to us a little about, what you found there? Was it obvious that there had been a crime occurred?
Yes, there was evidence that a crime occurred.
And that's because what you walked in, there was blood splatter everywhere, or how was?
There was blood spatter in the apartment.
So you contend he killed her in the apartment, then he cut the body up into pieces and put it into 5 different suitcases?
Correct.
And dump those, did he dump them all at one time in the Intracoastal? Or did he do one and come back hours later and put another one?
I don't have an answer to that.
It is 3 or 5 bags.
I'm sorry?
3 or 5 bags.
5 bags total.
5.
They're not all suitcases, right?
Correct.
What are, so how many suitcases?
3 suitcases, a tote type purse, and a smaller purse.
How many locations did you find a chainsaw? Where?
How many locations?
Yeah. Was there one in the storage area or just the apartment?
No, there was just one chainsaw in the storage unit.
Do you believe at this point that you've found all the suitcases?
Yes.
Do you believe this is the first time he's done something like this?
I can't answer that question. I do not know.
For cause of death? For cause of death?
Gunshot wound to the head.
Did you recover the gun?
We recovered a gun.
So his attorney this morning said this guy is totally innocent. He vehemently denies any allegations about this. He said he's a decorated Vietnam War veteran who received a Purple Heart. How certain are you that you have the right person?
I am very certain I have the right person,
And how? with
based
all
on
due
the
respect,
evidence that I have.
Can you specifically say what evidence makes?
I don't want to get into the full evidence. The probable cause affidavit will be released to you all, and you could get that from there.
How long have they been married? How long were they married?
Approximately 15 years.
Was there ever a call to that apartment for problems between them as a couple, or?
No.
And I know you said you don't know a motive, but, maybe you could speak on this, but I don't know what would motivate you to do this. I mean, this was no small task. Not only was she shot, but then dismembered, which is no easy task, and then put into, talk about what type of person that is.
I'm not a psychologist. I can't answer that question.
Can you describe his demeanor when you questioned him?
He seemed very nervous.
Was he surprised you found him?
No,
Where did you make the arrest? Can you describe the arrest?
I'm not really sure where the vehicle was stopped yesterday. I'm not sure where the vehicle was stopped at.
Do you know if he got the body in the apartment or maybe in a storage? Do you guys know the location where the body was got?
We believe it was the residence.
Can you talk about, in the probable cause affidavit, it talks about catching him coming back into the home through a back window. Can you talk about what happened in those moments? There was a search going on at the time, correct?
Yes, so we were we were there for approximately 18 hours. We were still processing his residence. We were holding the residence. There were officers on scene. He arrived on scene and tried to enter the house through the rear window, at which time officers grabbed him, and he stated that he knew he wasn't supposed to be there. He just wanted to get his phone as well as the keys to his storage unit.
Is that how you learned about the possible storage unit?
Yes.
5 more questions.
And when did that happen?
When did that happen?
How close to the arrest? Was that the same day?
It was not last night, but the evening before.
Do you guys know the date of the shooting, the 17th or the 20th?
We do not.
Did anyone at the storage unit report seeing him with the chainsaw at any point?
No, they just reported him arriving at the storage unit around the same time prior to us finding the suitcases, and said his demeanor was very odd.
Was the request to the community to give you information, was that helpful in this investigation? Did that play a serious role?
It did.
Can you explain how?
As I mentioned earlier, the people that lived in the area, witnesses, told us that they saw him in the area multiple times. They had video surveillance that they supplied us with. They led us to other neighbors that also saw him in the area, as well as a house that was diagonal from where the suitcase was found, which we were able to obtain video from that house as well.
You said you had the tag number. I've read the thing, but it's been a couple of hours. Which vehicle did you get the tag number for?
The same vehicle we saw in the video surveillance that the neighbors described.
And what was that? What
It was
kind of-
a gold Ford Taurus.
And that was his car?
Correct.
So that's how you were able to determine where the victim lived?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you all have a message to the community who might be sort of shaken by the details of this crime in Delray Beach?
I think this was an isolated incident. I think the city of Delray Beach is a very safe area to live, and I would not be concerned with further incidents like this from this individual, or that's my message.
How do you characterize what he did? I mean, you've been doing this a while. How does this compare to anything else you've seen in terms of violence and the crime?
I'd say this is probably the worst I've seen,
Why?
because he dismembered a body.
Thank you, everyone. Go ahead, Carlos, last one.
Is any evidence in the videos when he pushed the bags to the water? Is any evidence that there is an action?
There is evidence in the video, but not that of him putting those bags in the water. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.